up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Real Spit from Gangsta Gone Legit. Before we get started, I'm going to need you to hit that like and smash that subscribe button. Today we have part 2 of the Sean Ellis story. What's up, bro?
Peace, family.
Oh, man. Glad you came back, man.
Great to be back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's get right into it. For those of you who may not know, in part 1, we talked about Sean Ellis, who is a man who was wrongfully convicted of killing a Boston police officer in 1993 at the Walgreens in Roslindale. Now, Sean was tried 3 times and later granted a new trial. Today, we're going to go back and we're going to revisit what happened on that night. So, Sean, what I want the people to know, and what a lot of people are asking after they seen, because this was on Trial 4 on Netflix, and after they seen it, it left a lot of people confused because they wanted to know why. So I figured the best way to start part 2, brother, is just to ask you straight out, why you? Why do you think the police framed you for this murder? Because, I mean, let's call it what it is. It's definitely a frame. So why you?
So this isn't the first time. I'm sure it won't be the last time. But, like I've said, is because I was young, I was black, and most of all, I admitted being there. And so once I put myself there, the rest is history.
So what do you mean you admitted being there?
So I went to Walgreens to buy Pampers. Mm-hmm. And unbeknownst to me, like all of this other stuff happened. And so once I was asked to come in to the police department because of my 2 cousins were murdered, and I admitted that I was there at Walgreens buying Pampers, the rest is history.
Okay, let's take it back a little bit for someone who may not have seen Trial 4, where they talked about that, or have seen part 1 of our interview. So basically, after the police officer, John Mulligan, getting shot, there was an incident where 2 of your cousins, or one of them was your cousins, correct? Or both?
Both.
They both were your cousins. Okay, thank you. 2 of your cousins were murdered. Now, when you say you were there, because we need clarity here, let's let them be clear on when you said that. So, the detective who was at the murder scene, you came into the house at some point, is that right?
You're talking about the house scene, how it's part of the murder scene, like the 2 different things.
Okay, so correct me. Let me know. Matter of fact, in your words, because this says it's very sensitive. I don't want to mislead anybody. So when did he ask you about what did you know anything about it? Because I think that's what I seen on the show. He asked, did you know anything about this case? And that's where you pretty much put yourself at the Walgreens.
Yeah,
right?
So a couple of things. One is for anyone who hasn't seen Trial 4, make sure you watch Trial 4.
Absolutely.
It's on Netflix. Definitely make sure you watch it. And if you haven't seen part 1 of this interview, make sure you go back and see part 1 to this interview. That way you're able to follow along what we're talking about
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely.
But it's, during the questioning, if you will, or the interrogation, I was just asked about my whereabouts in terms of what happened to my cousins, and then it just flipped. Once I acknowledged that I was at Walgreens buying Pampers. Mm-hmm. Detective Brazel just came in and came in with the cover up, and started accusing me of having something to do with the homicide of the Detective Mulligan. Which I denied then, and I vehemently denied it since. And right. So it's that's when I say that I admitted being there. I admitted that I went to buy Walgreens to buy Pampers, which isn't a crime, which isn't something that should have resulted in me spending 22 years of my life incarcerated for a crime that I didn't commit.
Absolutely. This is definitely one of the worst cases that I've seen as far as a man wrongfully convicted. And from the beginning, everybody knew what it was as far as you being innocent, but still you had to go through 22 years to prove that. Like that's crazy. And I can only say I'm sure the people feel the same way. That I'm glad that justice has been served finally.
Well, we're taking
to an
steps,
extent, right?
Yeah, we're taking steps towards justice being served.
Right.
I believe just recently we took a huge step towards justice being served.
Absolutely.
With the announcement of, the brave and courageous and the progressive district attorney of Suffolk County, DA Rachel Rollins. But we still have to go in front of a judge and have the judge sign off on the fact that justice wasn't done. Despite that, a Superior Court judge has already said it. And the SJC, the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, has already said as well that justice wasn't done. So, we still have to appear in the courtroom and see if the judge is going to concur with that position.
And just to make this clear, we're not talking about the actual homicide. That is already dealt with.
Correct.
We're talking about the gun charge that was lingering since. And it's kind of, it's ridiculous to me that you would still have a gun charge to fight after all this time.
Correct.
But, okay, so it looks like that will finally be addressed. And you said thanks to DA Rachel, what's her name, Rollins?
DA Rachel Rollins of Suffolk County.
Okay.
Yeah. So, is one of the things about her time in office is her office has revamped the conviction integrity unit, which not just looks at the integrity of convictions, but also sentencing served and things of that nature to make sure that it's in line with the administration of justice. And in the motion assenting to my Rule 30, she spoke about having to balance the administration of justice with the defendant's rights. And so, that's basically how conviction units work. And the unfortunate piece is that there are other conviction integrity units that exist in Massachusetts, in different counties throughout Massachusetts and all throughout the country. And one of the problems with conviction integrity units is that when they review somebody's case, they often review their case from an appellate sort of lens, and not necessarily the lens where they look at the integrity of the conviction or the integrity of a sentence and start to administer justice based on that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people operate in terms of system-wise, and looking at the finality of a conviction or the finality of a sentence. And when you look at things from through that lens, it doesn't matter if justice was served or not. It's just okay. It's final, and this is what we have to go with. And so that's why in part that my attorneys and I and the director of the New England Innocent Project as well as CPCS has called her brave, because she kind of she took a stance representing what the conviction integrity unit should look like and how it should be operating.
Okay.
I know I got a little long.
No, that's okay. I mean, we need to understand what's going on. So basically, in a nutshell, DA Rachel Rollins she's definitely bringing integrity and justice back.
Absolutely.
And that's what
absolutely.
And we applaud her for that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's why I've also said when someone when somebody runs for office and they run on a platform of being progressive and not and kind of breaking outside of the parameters or the bounds of the status quo. And when you look at what happened in my case, you look at trial 4, the status quo has been the consistent cover-up, the consistent failing to acknowledge any of the corruption that took place and anything that was questionable with my case. And so that's the status quo. And anyone looking at it through a different view or a fresh view, had to have gotten outside of the intent or the want to cover up what really happened.
I see. Okay. Well, now that we have clarity on that, let's bring some clarity to who Sean is for someone who has not seen part one yet. Let's let them know who Sean Ellis is.
So like I spoke about before, like Sean Ellis, was that child that would wake up at 5 in the morning and take the long bus rides to the Needham public schools to get what my mom thought and felt was a good quality education, and that's where I learned the work ethics that I got and the study habits that I got. Even though to this day I'm not the best of note takers, that's Sean. Like Sean's a nice, caring person. Like I can feel other people's pain. I like studying. I like technology. Like, you know what I mean. But and then some parts, I'm still learning who Sean is because there was a period of in my life where my growth was stunted, and so I'm trying to reconnect the grown adult person that I am today with the 19-year-old that was kidnapped from his community, and so that's part of that too.
Okay. Well, you seem to have a strong support system now, and that's a good thing. And when we were talking, you were telling me how it's with your fiance, is it?
Mm-hmm.
That you have, you feel that you have someone that really has your back.
Mm-hmm.
When I listen to you, I definitely don't hear the man that they depicted in Trial 4, and that the police were the picture that they were trying to paint. They were definitely, you're soft spoken. You're from what I see, like you said, you're a kind person. You care. You care, caring.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to make it like you're more of a monster. So
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely the wrong picture. And I'm glad I got to know who Sean Ellis is,
Mm-hmm.
AKA is Sean Kareem, correct?
Sean Kareem.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right, so let's talk about what happens now. Where do you go from here? Now, well, actually, go on. You take it from there. Where do you go from here?
Yeah. So, we're at a point now where, like I spoke about previously, we filed my motion for new trial. The DA's office assented to so when someone files a motion for new trial, there needs to be a response to it. And so the DA's office response is that they agreed to or assented to my request for a motion for new trial, essentially meaning that they agree that I deserve a motion for new trial. Now we have to go in front of the judge, who ultimately is tasked with making a decision on whether justice was done or wasn't done. And so that right there is the next step.
Okay. Okay, so what about the repercussions from being in this case? Like, do you fear for your life while you're out here now? Do you think that the police still have a target on your back? Because to some of them, no matter whether you clear your name or not, they still believe that you're the man that did this. Do you feel threatened in any way?
Well, what I'll say is this, is that my attorney and I have had that type of conversation, and we know what needs to be done to address that issue, to address the issue of my safety, and I'm definitely listening and doing the things that she's telling me to do. But I will say this, is that I work a 9-to-5 job. I don't hang out. I'm a family person. So I'm not in situations nor settings where it's likely that I'm gonna get caught up due to the environment of the urban community, of Black and brown communities, that if something was to happen to me, that I don't believe that we need to start to look to there's not a lot of places where we need to be looking at to determine what's what happened. But like I said, my attorneys and I have had discussions around me and my safety.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why her position is that I shouldn't be living in the city of Boston.
Right.
You know what I mean? So.
Right. No, I get it. Okay. So, where do you want to happen? Well, since you just mentioned living in the city of Boston, do you feel like when this is all over completely, that would be the best move, to just relocate and start somewhere else?
Well, when we speak about me relocating, there's a couple of factors that I have to look at. Given the fact that I'm 22 years removed from my mom's life, I have to look at what me and her relationship looks like, and whether or not I have the ability to move her when I was to relocate, not out of Boston, but out of Massachusetts. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but then we also have to think about the fact that I do have a 9-to-5 job, and not a whole wealth of work experience. So it isn't as simple as me just picking up and saying, well, all right, I'm going to relocate, and my marketability, if you will, is there. So there's a lot of things that need to go in, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I guess.
Okay. Sean, a lot of people have said, why did you get out and continue to fight to clear your name when you, in their eyes, you already got over? See, they're thinking you got over. So you're out, you're free. So why open your mouth, basically, and continue to want to tell your story or to fight to clear your name? What do you say to that?
I've used the vernacular or I've used the expression as far as clearing my name, and I think that that's understandable to all of us. But to put it clearly, I had nothing to do with this crime, and because I had nothing to do with this crime, I want that to reflect in every aspect of my life. And so, that's why I continue to fight, because I have to fight, because I had nothing to do with this crime. And so, things need to be cleared up.
No, I respect that, brother. I know how that feels.
And then that's the part that deals with me, Sean Ellis, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other people. I've often said as well that it's not just Sean Ellis. That there are other people who are sitting in prison for crimes that they didn't commit, because there's not a culture, if you will, of looking at wrongful convictions.
Right.
I know of 2 cases now that one of the cases involves DNA evidence. That too is a homicide case, but the DNA evidence either clears or leads to clearing, right? Stephen Pena, and in that case, showing that he couldn't have been genetically involved in that, but yet and still he's still sitting in prison. There's Ricky McGee, who had a detective take a witness who was going to testify in his behalf off and have a side conversation with this witness, to where the witness no longer wanted to come forward and testify on his behalf. And he's sitting in prison. So, when you start looking at that, or you become aware of that, that's making it clear that, listen, what happened to Sean isn't just isolated to Sean, but it's a systemic problem that needs to be looked at.
And that's the fight that you're continuing to do now. When your case is done all the way and cleared, you still are going to continue on this fight for the brothers who are still locked up, correct?
That fight's going on now.
Okay.
Like that, like I think that people are wise enough to know that what happened to Sean isn't just isolated to Sean.
That's right.
That's right. You know, there's a problem that exists that needs to be looked at.
Okay, great. Before I move on, let me add to that. So for all the people out there who have seen Trial 4, has followed this case throughout the years, or just personally has had an opinion about this man, Sean, as being guilty or whatever it was you thought it was, now I hope you have more clarity to know why he was fighting for his name. Because as he just said again, and has continued to say from day one, when he, 1993, at 19 years old, right? 19 years old, when he first was accused, he said he had nothing to do with this. And you heard him today, which is 2021, saying the same exact thing. It has nothing to do with this. So I hope that everyone that has formed their opinions can understand now that that's just what it was, an opinion. The fact is that this man that I'm sitting next to, Sean Ellis, is innocent of all these charges that were brought against him. And he continues to fight to clear his name, and he will continue to fight to clear other inmates' names who are locked up. So to that, brother, I have to applaud you for that. And I have to say that it takes a lot of courage, and a lot of people would not do what you're doing. They would get out, get their life in order, and move on and do it. So I hope that everybody does appreciate what you're doing, because I definitely do.
And so to that, like, we're at a point, brother, where whether we believe or whether we agree with rather the politics, if you will, of Black Lives Matter, right?
Let's talk about that.
You know, that's like whether we agree or not with the politics of it is one thing, but conceptually, right, when we say that Black Lives Matter, man, that's we have to look at what brought that on, what caused that movement to come forward, and you know, it's the fact that we as Black and brown people have repeatedly been shown that our lives don't matter, or that our lives are less than. Right. Or whether we deal with the 3/5 of a person, the 3/5 of a man, or having to declare I am a man, whatever it is, it's like historically we've been told that our lives don't matter. So, you know, the fact that there are people that are pushing for diversity, equity, and inclusion within various institutions, whether it's people who are fighting for criminal justice reform or prison reform, all that is tied into the fact that, you know, like, Black people have been targeted and disproportionately affected by the perils, if you will, of the system. And so it's just really striving to push back against it, and receive the justice and equity and the freedom that, you know, have been said will be extended to all citizens.
Now, that's interesting that you bring up that point of Black Lives Mattering. I feel like Black lives will never matter in this country until they matter to us.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
No, definitely. But I take it a step further, and, you know, I believe that Black lives do matter to us. I don't believe that, you know, when we speak about black on black violence, that isn't the majority of occurrences that take place within our community. Although it might be the majority of occurrences that are displayed on the local news throughout the country, I believe that there are a lot of Black and brown people who are positive, productive, positive citizens of this country. But that's you know, the argument is out there whether or not that's what's really depicted. You know what I mean? But, you know, even though Black lives matter to us, I believe that history has shown us that we have to continue to push in order to what we would call level up and make it matter to like other people.
Okay. What would you like people to take away from this interview? Part one, you gave them a lot of who you were. And this part two, you've came right out and you let it be known that you're fighting for your name because you're not guilty of this at all. So you're very cut and clear, right to the point. What do you want them to take away from this interview?
What I want them to take away is that I could be you. I could be your son. I could be your brother. I could be your father. I could be your husband. I could be you. And that is a phrase that was coined by Diamond. I always want to give credit where credit's due. I don't want to steal nothing from nobody.
Diamond,
but you know what? That might have been me though. That might have been me, man. I think about it. Don, hit me up and let me know.
Y'all gotta get some clarity there, Diamond.
Yeah, but no. It's I really think that was a phrase that I might have coined. Because I wanted just to let people know that, like, no, like I could be you. Like, there is nothing special or spectacular that may just happen to me rather than the next person. I just admitted that I went to Walgreens to buy diapers and the rest of my life changed. So that's what I want people to know.
I don't know. I think you're being a little modest there because...
Could be. I always am.
Yeah, I think you are. And the reason I say that is I've been thinking from the time I met you and from our first interview and prior to that, watching the Netflix special Trial 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I thought about was if you would have taken a position of being locked up, everybody was against you. You've lost loved ones. You lost support teams while you were locked up. You lost people started not believing in you. I know you had to hear that motherfucker did that and whoop, whoop, whoop and all these different things. But the reason why I say you're being modest is because you are the reason you are sitting in this chair right now and free. Even though we know it was your lawyer that put in the right motions and got you out here, it was your determination. It was the fact that you didn't play in a prison yard. You were in a law library. Mm-hmm. So when I say you're being modest, brother, you definitely are because you are the reason. And I hope that brothers who see this understand that you have to put your life in your own hands at some point, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what you did. So I can't give you that and just let you, be modest about it. You got to take that as you did something huge. You know what I mean? Like I said in part one, if it wasn't for you writing that letter, you would have never been out here as far as, being free. You would be still in prison right now. So you have to start looking at that like, you know what? I did this. I mean, of course, you did this along with God because he showed you the way. Like you said in the first one, you said who God was to you, right? Mm-hmm. And true living, right? And that's who you are, right? So on that note, brother, I couldn't sit and listen to that no more where, no, you have to acknowledge that you did this by being the man you are and you got in those books, man, and you fought. And this is the result, which is a wonderful, wonderful result because now you have a chance to go on with the rest of your life opposed to being stuck in a prison cell in a cage for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to do. You stood up and you fought for something that you believed in. And there's a saying, right, that a man, how does it go? If a man doesn't stand for something, he'll fall for anything. Mm-hmm. You stood for your freedom. And by you standing for that and fighting, brother, you was granted that. And so again, I have to salute one more time, So yeah, definitely don't. When you're telling your story in the future, man, you can't be modest about that. You gotta let it be known, man.
Yeah, no, I definitely know. I definitely acknowledge, the fact that I played a integral part,
yes.
in my getting myself here. Like I definitely played integral part of that. And I typically speak to that when I do my speaking engagements.
Very inspirational.
I definitely, because I know that what I went through in the setting is transferable. The way that I got through this horror is the way that somebody that is doing a job that might be difficult for them to do or what have you. Like, I've parsed it enough to where I can articulate and speak to the connectedness of my plight and the plight of other people. And so, I definitely hear you. And as you said, the God, Master Farad is huge. The God Allah is huge. You know what I mean? But that kind of brings me to the religious aspect of this journey, because there was definitely a religious aspect of this journey. And I remember when I was studying the different religions, just trying to figure out where that fit at within the context of my life and my journey. And I was raised as a Baptist.
Okay.
I have one of the moms where we would be in church like 5 days a week almost, if I remember correctly. But I remember where I was studying Supreme Mathematics. I've been studying the lessons, and
that would be the 5% lessons,
right. You know what I mean? But I remember my mom had a different view, different understanding. Not a different view, but a different understanding of her relationship with her higher power. And I remember saying to myself, I need to be tolerant when it comes to religion, because the way that Christianity is working for my mom and in my mom's life, it worked for her in the way that got her clean. So who am I, and what kind of son would I be to attack her religion and that which she done built her house on to maintain, her positive growth and elevation? And so it was really that what caused me to become, tolerant and understanding when it comes to religion. And so, as the minister say, I don't set trip when it comes to religion.
Yeah, I like when he says that as well.
Right. If it works for you, then it works for you, and all praises due to the true and living that it works for you and is showing up as a positive asset and benefit in your life. That's how I see that.
Okay. So, moving along, is there anything else that you want to cover in this segment that we haven't talked about yet?
I can't say so, but if you have me back, I'm definitely sure that.
Oh yeah, we have to do that part 3 because we have to wait for the decision on this case, because that's going to be able to open up a lot more questions that people may have, and then we'll be at a liberty to discuss certain things further, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so there you have it. We will have a part 3, definitely. That one, we just don't know when that will be yet. But as soon as we know, then we'll bring it to the people.
Right? And these weights, the timing, the way that the time moves within the criminal law system is real. It
could be frustrating.
Yeah, it could definitely be frustrating.
What do you think? Time frame? What do you think it'll be before you get a decision on this?
There's no way.
There's no way
for me to know. But although it may be frustrating, I do know that people making decisions have to do their homework, so to speak, so that they can ensure that the right things being done. So I just hope that that's really what it is.
Okay. So, well, on that note, man, I think that we covered pretty much all we need to do for this segment. One thing. Yeah, I want to talk about your movement with the Wounded but Not Broken. So the first one we talked about it briefly, right? What it meant. But now I have to ask, I think it's time now where you're licking your wounds. They're starting to really come together, men. I'm sure you're feeling a lot stronger now, and you definitely, we know you're not broken. So where are you right now with the wound?
Well, I'm definitely licking my wounds, but they're not healed yet. I think that's a different kind of journey. That's a different kind of issue. Mental health.
That's right.
And I remember, the perception in prison was that you didn't want to talk to mental health because those who talked to mental health was just the ones that kind of wanted to get high, or they were just trying to really escape the reality of their sentence and what they were dealing with in terms of time. But I definitely know that I have to continue to seek out somebody good to talk to help to unpack everything that has gone on in my life for the last 28 plus years.
Yes.
So that's where that's at in terms of wounded but not broken.
Okay.
And wounded but not broken is we all go through things, but as long as we don't allow them to break us,
Right.
as long as we don't stay stuck in the incarceration. And incarceration comes in many forms. There's a physical one, but then there's many different forms of incarceration. So, we just have to stay persevering and getting through. You know what I mean? And those who want to connect, visit my website, trial4.com, and my social media platforms, Ellis K. Sean on Instagram and Sean Ellis on Facebook and YouTube. And learn more about Wounded But Not Broken.
Okay. Well, I mean, you touched on something that's really important there. Mental health is real. And you're right when you say a lot of us don't want to deal with it, especially when we're in prison. It's looked down upon instead of it's actually something that we should encourage one another to do, because when we're in there, we should realize that there were some things that were going on in our lives that even helped to lead us to where we were at in the decisions we were making. And I think that, we should take that more serious and have more discussions about it. Definitely, it's real. Okay. Well, on that note, man, I want to say that this has been a great interview. I think a lot has been covered in this short period of time. I think now people will have the facts that they need about the Sean Ellis story. Again, I'll say this is a man who was wrongfully convicted. He, to me, I know that you say justice is not all the way served yet, but it's been served to a point where he's home, he has his freedom, and he's about to, his name will be, I'm putting it out there right now because they say when you put it in the universe, you bring it forth. So I'm saying he is going to be fully exonerated. I believe that. And he is going to be able to live, I won't say a normal life, because you're always going to have those thoughts of what you went through and all of that, but you're going to be able to live the best life that you can. And I appreciate and applaud that, because you fought for it, So on that note, man, this has been another edition of Real Spit from a Gangsta Gone Legit. This is part 2, the Sean Ellis story. Please subscribe, and we'll see you in 2 and 2. Peace.
Peace.